Very, very dreadfully nervous I have been, ma'am, but why will you say that I am mad? The disease had sharpened my senses, not destroyed, not dulled them. Above all was a sense of hearing acute. I heard all things in the heaven and in the earth. I heard many things in hell. How then am I mad? Hearken and observe how healthily, how calmly I can tell you the whole story. It is impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain, but once conceived, it haunted me day and night. Object there was none, passion there was none. I loved the old man. He had never wronged me. He had never given me insult for his gold. I had no desire. I think it was his eye. Yes, it was this. He had the eye of a vulture, a pale blue eye with a film over it. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold, and so, by degrees, very gradually, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man, and thus rid myself of the eye forever. Now, this is the point. You fancy me mad. Madmen know nothing, but you should have seen me. You should have seen how wisely I proceeded, with what caution, with what foresight, with what dissimulation I went to work. I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week before I killed him, and every night, just at 12, I opened the latch of his door, opened it, oh, so gently. And then, when I had made an opening sufficient for my head, I first put in a dark lantern, all closed, so that no light shone out, and then I thrust in my head. Oh, you would have laughed to see how cunningly I thrust it in. I moved it slowly, very, very slowly, so as not to disturb the old man's sleep. It took me an hour to place my whole head within the opening so far that I could see the old man as he lay upon his bed. What a madman had been so wise as this. And then, when my head was well in the room, I undid the lantern cautiously, oh, so cautiously, for the hinges creaked. I undid it just so much that a single thin ray of light fell upon the vulture eye. And this I did for 7 long nights, every night, just at midnight. But I found the eye always closed. And so you see, it was impossible for me to do the work, for it was not the old man who vexed me, but his evil eye. And every morning when the day broke, I went boldly into his chamber and spoke to him courageously, addressing him by name and inquiring how he had passed the night. And so, you see, he would have been a very profound old man indeed to suspect that every night, and just at midnight, I looked in upon him while he slept. Upon the 8th night, I was more than usually cautious in opening the door. A watch's minute hand moves more quickly than did mine. Never before that night had I felt the true extent of my own powers. I could scarcely contain my feelings of triumph to think. There I was, opening the door little by little, and the old man not even to dream of my secret deeds or thoughts. I fairly chuckled at the idea. And perhaps he heard me, for he moved in the bed suddenly as if startled. You may think that I drew back. No. The room was as black as pitch with a thick darkness, for the shutters were close fastened through fear of robbers, and so I knew the old man could not see the opening of the door, and so I kept pushing it steadily. I had my head in, and was about to open the lantern when my thumb slipped upon the tin fastening, and the old man shot up in the bed, crying out, "Who's there?" I remained quite still and said nothing. For another hour I did not move a muscle. Meantime, I did not hear the old man lie back down. He was still sitting up in the bed, listening, just as I have done, night after night, hearkening to the death watches in the walls. Presently, I heard a slight groan, and I knew it was the groan of mortal terror. It was not a groan of pain or of grief. Oh no, it was the low, stifled sound that arises from the bottom of the soul and overcharged with awe. I knew the sound well. Many a night just at 12, when all the world suffered, has welled up from my own bosom, deepening with its dreadful echo the terrors that distracted me. I say I knew the sound well. I knew what the old man felt, and I pitied him. Although I chuckled at heart. I knew he'd been lying awake in the bed ever since the first slight noise when he had turned. His fears had ever since been growing upon him. Oh, he had been trying to fancy them causeless, but could not. He had been saying to himself, "It is only the wind in the chimney. It is only a mouse crossing the floor. It is but a cricket that has made a single chirp." Yes, he had been trying to comfort himself with these suppositions, but had found all in vain. All in vain, because death, in approaching the old man, had stalked with his black shadow before him, and that shadow had now reached and enveloped the victim. And I knew it was the mournful presence of that unperceived shadow that caused the old man to feel, though he neither saw nor heard, to feel the presence of my head within the room. After I had waited a long time, very patiently, without hearing the old man lie down, I resolved to open a little, very, very little crevice in the lantern. So I opened it. Oh, you cannot believe how stealthily, until at length a single thin ray, like the thread of a spider, shot out from the crevice and fell full upon the vulture eye. It was open! Wide open, and I grew furious as I gazed upon it. I saw it with perfect distinctness, all the dull blue with a hideous veil over it that chilled the very marrow of my bones. But I could see nothing else of the old man's face or person, for I had directed the ray, as if by instinct, directly upon the damned spot. And now, have I not told you that what you mistake for madness is but merely over-acuteness of the senses? I say now, there came to my ears a low, dull, quick sound, much such as a sound a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I knew that sound well, too. It was the beating of the old man's heart. It increased my fury as the beating of the drum stimulates a soldier into courage, and yet I refrained and kept still. I held the lantern motionless. I tried to maintain as steady as I could the ray upon the eye. Meantime, the hellish tattoo of the heart increased. It grew quicker and louder every instant. The old man's terror must have been extreme. It grew louder, I say, louder every moment. Do you mark me well? I have told you that I am nervous, and so I am. And now, in the dead hour of the night, in the dreadful silence of that old house, such a strange sound as this excited me to uncontrollable wrath, and yet for many minutes I refrained and kept still. I scarcely breathed. The beating grew louder and louder. I thought the heart must burst, and then a new anxiety seized me. The sound! It would be heard by a neighbor. The old man's hour had come. With a loud yell, I threw open the lantern and leapt into the room. The old man shrieked once only. In an instant, I dragged him to the floor and pulled the heavy bed on top of him. I then sat upon the bed and smiled gaily to see the job so far done. But the heart beat on for many minutes with a muffled sound. This, however, did not vex me. I knew it would not be heard through the walls. At length, it ceased. The old man was dead. I removed the bed and examined the corpse. Yes, he was stone dead. I placed my hand upon the heart and held it there for many minutes. There was no pulsation. The old man was stone dead. His eye would trouble me no more. Now you, who still think me mad, will think so no longer once I describe the wise precautions I took for the concealment of the body. The night waned, and I worked hastily but in silence. First of all, I dismembered the corpse. I cut off the head and the arms and the legs. And then I pulled up 3 planks from the flooring of the chamber and deposited all between the scantlings. I then replaced the board so cleverly, so cunningly, that no human eye, not even his, could have detected anything was wrong. There was nothing to wash out, no stain of any kind, no blood spot whatsoever. No, I had been too clever for that, and Tom had caught all. When I had made an end of these labors, it was 4 o'clock, still black as midnight, and suddenly there came a knocking at the street door. I went down to open it with a light heart, for what had I now to fear? And there entered 3 gentlemen who introduced themselves with perfect suavity as officers of the police. A shriek had been heard in the night by a neighbor. Suspicion of foul play had been aroused. Information had been lodged at the police office, and the officers, had been dispatched to search the premises. I smiled. For what had I to fear? I bade the gentleman, welcome, welcome. The shriek, I said, was my own in a dream. The old man I mentioned was absent in the country. I took my visitors all through the house and bade them search well. I took them at length to his chamber, and I showed them his treasure, secure, undisturbed. In the excitement of my confidence, I brought chairs into the room and desired them here to rest from their fatigues, while I myself, in the wild audacity of my own perfect triumph, placed my own seat directly upon the spot beneath which reposed the corpse of the victim. The officers were satisfied. My manner had convinced them I was singularly at ease. They sat, and while I answered them freely, they chatted of familiar things, but ere long I felt myself getting pale and wished them gone. My head ached, and I fancied a ringing in my ears, but still they sat and chatted, and the ringing grew more distinct. I spoke more freely to try to rid myself of the feeling, but the noise continued and gained definitiveness until, at length, I found that the sound was not within my ears. No doubt I now grew very pale, but I talked more fluently and with a heightened voice. The noise continued, but what else could I do? It was a low, dull, quick sound, much such as the sound a watch makes when pelleted cotton. I gasped for breath, and if the officers heard it not, I spoke more quickly, more vehemently. The noise steadily increased. I arose and I argued about trifles with wild gesticulations, but the noise steadily increased. Why would they not be gone? I paced the room to and fro with heavy strides that excited to fury by the observations of the men, but the noise steadily increased. Oh God, what could I do? I foamed, I raved, I swore, I swung the chair upon which I sat and grated on the floors, but the noise arose above all and continually increased. It grew louder and louder and louder. The men sat there chatting and smiling. Was it possible that they heard not? Oh God, no, they heard, they suspected, they knew, they were making a mockery of my horror. This I thought, and this I think, but anything was better than this agony, anything was more tolerable than this derision. I thought they must scream or die.